Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So if you liked last week's video on the botanicals, we have managed to put together two botanicals boxes. So we're doing a regular or a standard box listed on the website with all the content, and we decided to do a luxury box as well with pretty much a pile of every botanical, or a good number of some of the smaller botanicals and some of the bigger pods that we sell. So there's a luxury box on the website and also a standard box that we do. So this week's video is pretty much all about shrimp room updates. It's shot over a couple of weeks. We have had new shrimp today, and there's a little bit of video towards the end of the video on that. So with all that being said, let's get straight into it. So what we have done is we've moved some GBee shrimp out of the mixed tank over into this tropica to give them a try, see how we got on in there. And another thing that we're in the process of doing then is we're in the process of emptying this tank out. So that's now cycled a lot of algae in there. I've siphoned as much as I can out into that bucket, and then we'll top that up with fresh. And then the plan is, if I can get this done this afternoon, is to move these fancy tigers out into that tank up there, but we'll have to see how we get on. So trying something a little bit different. I've turned the lights off in the room and trying to sort of avoid the reflections from behind me, but they're not. I think I've had a bit of a thought about closing all the gaps between each of the aquariums so I don't get sort of flare back on light when I'm sort of trying to shoot like this, because as you can see the light here if you see the reflection. But if all that's closed off, it will be a lot easier to video some of the tanks. So just a morning check really on the shrimp that we moved. So we've moved the spotted head pintos, and we sort of cleaned out the ones that weren't breeding true. They've absolutely demolished the algae in this tank. There wasn't loads in this one, and likewise the low grade fancies. So apologies for the that sort of going for it as well. Just eating all the algae that's in that tank, so I can't see any fatalities. So normally when you move stuff, it's 2 or 3 days before you sort of get any fatalities, but at the moment they're all fine. So this is the tank that had the low grade fancies in. They bred pretty well, to be fair, in that tank. That's on environment soil. I have dosed this tank with a Chemway Triple G snail remover tablet. So it is a 25 litre, it's 1 per 25 litres. They take a few days to work, also I'm led to believe, so I'm going to sort of just let that run. They are supposed to be shrimp and snail safe, and likewise I've done the same in here. It is a test. They seem to be quite inactive, the snails do, but they are still alive. The tablet only went in yesterday, so we'll sort of feed back and see how that does as well. My pure red line then, so the plan is these aren't sort of super active, and I know this tank needs reset just from experience. So our plan is to reset this tank, but I'm sort of waiting to move them into one of these. And what I meant by closing gaps is, you see the sort of gap between the top shelf and the tanks. I want to sort of put a board across there just to sort of push back against the light, so when I'm videoing the tanks I'm not getting sort of light bouncing back off me and giving a reflection. So undecided yet if I'm going to do those in whiteboard or blackboard. I may do them in black, although white would go really well with the room. And I'm thinking with the smaller tanks then, so I either cut the board so it sort of drops down to the smaller tanks, or I lift those up on a base, and similar with these ones here. So rather than have them on the base, I may build a bit of a stand for them to raise them up so they're all at the same height. So they're the same height as this one, then it just makes life a bit easier for me. So I've still got to do the lighting. I have got the, I don't know if you can see that, I have got the light in, but it's just not wired up yet. And I need to do that top shelf because it's melamine and I don't want it to be melamine, but the weather's been atrocious, as you're all aware, and I need to realistically get 3 coats on that board. I'll paint 2 once it's dry, so I've got 1 spare, but I do plan to sort of change that one as well, and I do want to change the lighting on that. And then once all that's done, although these are breeding, so looking at the UGF box, it's a bit minging, needs changing really. But because I've got 2 filters in there, I could possibly just swap that box out for an aquasolum and layer it with bacteria, because I know it doesn't leach ammonia. So we'll see how it goes anyway. Water changes have been sort of super easy. Now I've got this bin up and running, so I can just mix sort of 80 litres at a time. I am bucketing it in from the RO unit at the moment, but I'll work out a way of pumping that in so it's just less labour intensive, and I still need to make the little dolly that sort of I can wheel that around. But the sort of long term plan is, where I've got that tap that does that rack, I'm going to do the same for this rack, and I'll probably do it for this rack too. Although doing it for this rack, because I've got glass sliding lids, I'm probably going to have to get some. I don't want acrylic, just simply because acrylic, it soaks water up and it bows eventually, and I don't want it to, so I'll either have to replace the backs of these with some form of polycarb. I don't know if I can get one thin enough where I can cut that to size, but I do need polycarb for some of these tanks anyway, so I'm going to have to order polycarb at some point. I just need to think about whether that polycarb will fit into those rails there. I need to probably just get the gauge on the glass and measure that and make sure that stuff fits. So something else that I've done is, if you can see that plug there, that plug is plugged into a Tapo smart plug, and the Tapo smart plug is plugged into the AC unit. I've also got a Tapo smart plug plugged into the dehumidifier. So that dehumidifier actually throws out a little bit of heat. I know the AC unit heats as well. I'm sort of saving that for the winter. But what I wanted to sort of just quickly talk about, just unplug that so I can get past, is I mentioned, I think in the last video, that we'd bought this Tapo sensor. So what we've done with that Tapo sensor is I've set up some routines. If I remember, I'll put the routines in at the end. But the basic idea of the routine is that if the temperature goes above 24, the AC unit comes on and drops the temperature down to 23. So the room will be 23 and the tanks will obviously stabilise. It may be 22, I'm not 100%. But what that also does, so I'll just show you some products while I'm talking. So what that also does is when the temperature goes below 19 or 20, I think below 20, the dehumidifier comes on. And what the dehumidifier will then do, the dehumidifier will then warm the room. And again, once it gets to sort of 21, it turns off. So I'll look at sort of, I'll have a think about how the routines work, because I can do stuff with humidity as well. But although my AC unit heats, I can't control, I can turn it on and off using the Tapo process, but I can't sort of heat or cool. Now there is something built into it that I can sort of set up, but I haven't managed to get that to work yet. I can still play with it, I suppose. But so sort of plans for this week, I think we're going to try and get the rest of the pipes in for the feeds and the taps to do this rack, although I haven't done anything with the top of that rack yet. So I want to get the sort of float valves in, and I know what I'm putting up here, so I can sort of I can get it working, and move some stuff out of the bottom of that rack, get the shelving in. I want to sort of clean out this tank that's got snails in, and I think my top 2 tanks are just going to be snail tanks. I do have some rabbit snails, and I'm probably just going to use a sand substrate in those 2. I think we've got enough for the Caradina and the Neo Caridina for now, but I want to start doing some stuff with snails as well. So keep you updated as the week goes by. The other thing I need to do here really is I've got my sort of packing and what's it sorted out here, but I really need to make room for a printer. So I've got a lot of tools on that sort of middle shelf there that I still need to clear out. So possibly I might see if I can get my son to clear the shed out, and we'll start moving some unnecessary stuff out of here. There are a lot of botanicals that I could potentially, so here for example, sorry I'm shooting in the dark, and here, so there are a lot of botanicals, but I've still got the ability, once I've cleared this corner out, to add more stuff to hang down there. So whether I sort of pack those up and move those over there to make a bit of room or not, I'm unsure, but we'll have a play and see where we get to. So just a little tiny update. It's Wednesday morning-ish, and what I've done is I've dropped some sand in this little 20 litre. I have put some coolie loaches out of the tank that I'm breaking down. So my daughter's having the tank, we'll set that up and she can have the coolies, but I've really got nowhere to put them. The everything else seems to be doing really well. So lots of molts at the moment. So hopefully we'll have some babies soon if those are females molting and they're sort of really active and moving around and stuff. But I think I've lost one. I think I have lost one because it looks like it might be a bit of food, but I think that's a dead shrimp. So it looks like I've lost one of the low-grade fancies. Don't seem to have lost anything in the pinto tank, but I'll have a bit of a look. So you guys are seeing this as I do. I've literally just walked in here. I'm probably going to have to put a bit of wood or something in this little small tank, just somewhere where the coolies can hide, really, I suppose. There should be 4 of them, so I'll keep an eye. I think there's one sleeping behind the filter. But that tank it was sort of a bit of a coal tank for Neos. So my daughter's going to have the Neos, and they're just coals, and the coolies, and I'll probably put a bit more sand in so they can get a bit of a berry. But they look a bit stressed, to be fair, so I do need to do something about them today. I'm not sure where I'm going to put them unless I quickly set this 50 litre up. But just with sand or something, you know, but they need somewhere to hide. Welcome back, shrimpers. So I did some video last week prior to putting the video out, and it was bits of room updates and stuff, so we're in a mess as always, but just a quick update. So I haven't done the end tank there. All the lighting is sorted on that rack. I just need to tape and clip up a bit there. Likewise with this rack, and the temporary lighting that was on those racks has now been moved onto these racks, and I've decided that I'm going to take the lighting off this rack and do it similar to these. So I intended with these middle 2 tanks to reset them. I am testing some snail killer in this tank. It's been running a few days. I think I'm going to double dose, because I did similar in another tank and it worked. It killed all the snails. The bottom one here, which we were going to reset, we've had a bit of a change of plan. So as you can see, I'm dripping. These are some pure blackline Hinamarus that I'm going to temporarily house in there. And without putting backs and stuff on the tank, I've updated this one. So we're going to run a HMF tower in there. I may still put a UGF box in there, but we're using the soil that we use for the tiger tanks. So I think the idea is then that this top shelf, so I have got this temporary and I've got some coolies in there. These are the coals from my old scape. The coolies will be going into my sister's, sorry, not my sister's, into my daughter's tank. And then the PBL were destined to go in my scape tank that you guys haven't seen yet. But I do have an Epistogramma male in there that I need to move on. He's I need to find somewhere for him really. My daughter doesn't want him, but I'll move him on. I think I know someone who will have him, but I've got the big tank as well. And once we've tested the snail stuff, so it does kill snails, I'll show you what it is. I have got one tin left in, I think, and the one that I'm using. So it's called Triple G Snail Remover. We do sell this, and at the moment for ram's horns I've sort of double dosed. So I didn't. What I did was in this tank I put a tablet and then did a 50% water change after day 3, which was advised to do, but the snails were still going. So I added another tablet, so that's only a 25 litre, the one tablet per 25 litre. I added another tablet, so it's sort of 150%, and it's worked, and all my snails are dead. There's the odd little baby on the glass, but I think they're all dead. Everything else seems to be. And then in this tank, although they look really lethargic, I think they are dying, so that's on standard dose. So I might leave it a few more days. I might do what the instructions say and sort of do a 50% water change and see what happens. And once we're sort of satisfied that, look at that beautiful shrimp. Once we're satisfied that the snail stuff is doing what it's doing, and it doesn't kill shrimp. So I've lost no shrimp at all in any of my tanks. I might drop it in here because there's going to be a bit of an explosion as well in there. But it seems to work. So just a little update, we'll add it to the rest of the video and sort of move that on. My top tanks are doing okay. I've noticed I get quite a lot of bacterial bloom clouding in this one. So I'm sort of feeding and dropping days and not feeding for a while and stuff, and it clears, and then you put a bit of food in and it comes back. So I just need to keep an eye on that. I found a tub of a pack of HWA1, don't sell this, found a pack of HWA1 that I used to use in the house, and my wife used to moan like mad because every time I used it the house smells, and I've used it in all of the tanks today, and when you walk into the shrimp room it actually smells like boiled broccoli, and the hallway, so the garage connects to our hallway, the hallway stinks of the same, so I'm getting it in the neck a little bit. But just a bit of an update, I'll get these pure black line in the tank, and I'll sort of show you, I'll do a bit of video of them in the tank. Pure black line was one of the shrimp I always wanted to keep, but never got round to. I don't think they're the best sellers, but I think they're absolutely beautiful shrimp, and if they drop a few babies in here or breed them before we move them into the tank, it'll be good, and we'll sort of start a colony from there. But so at the moment we've got pure white line, pure red line, and now we've got pure black line as well. So we're doing good with the crystals and everything else. It's just coming along. It's cycle time, I've got plans for the tanks that are in cycle. I've put an additional light onto this tank to try and green wall it up quicker. It doesn't leach ammonia, so it just needs to green wall. And if you can probably spot in there, there are a couple of assassin snails again removed from the scape tank, but I just needed somewhere to put them temporarily, and eventually they'll go, or I'll give them away, or they'll go into another tank, or where I've got a snail infestation or something. I'm not sure yet, but probably in one of the Neo tanks we'll get snail explosions in those because the parameters are a bit better for them. But we'll see how that goes, and they're definitely not going in that one because that's got some baby rabbits in, and I think the substrate's a bit coarse. So I was intending to sort of move them into this tank, but again that's going to be, I might keep the pH a bit higher in that one to where they need to be, but we'll see how we go anyway. So we've done a nice slow drip for a few hours. I'm in the process now of just starting to catch these and put them into their new tank. So using my trusty SL Aqua net. first one's in. So this is the SL Aquanet. This is the wooden handle one, carbon fibre, beautiful net, and we'll just sort of keep working through, and they're quite lively. Doesn't help trying to catch them on camera actually, but hand over the net just to stop any jumps, and then slowly tip. I will actually move. I'm going to move this moss. I think there are a couple of shrimp in the moss, so I need to be a bit careful. But if I move that moss, any shrimp in there will go with it. And what I'll do is I'll probably take that moss out and put some more plants in this tank for them. But they're comfortable with the moss because they've obviously used the moss, and we'll just keep. I want to tiny. Keep catching them, and I'll do a bit of video zoomed up on them afterwards. Oh, there's a tiny baby one there. Let's see if we can get him and his mate. So yes, there are two in there. There's the baby. Nice shrimp these are. These are from a friend, Pete Forster. They're jumping a bit. And I've been after some of these for a while, as I said. Nice to get them in twos. So these would be referred to as Inamaru, which is an SS grade. So pretty decent.
Someone is at the front door.
Just going to pause that there because there's someone at the door. Bear with me. Sorry about that, someone at the door. So I think there's one left. And I'll check through the bucket that I've dripped into. But just, I'm going to just zoom this a little bit for you guys. Well, Inamaru, white, black head, white body. Sometimes no entry pattern on the back, or a spot. So we'll leave these to settle in to their new home. So I have put the moss in that they came in. Which I don't always recommend, but I don't mind. If it's got problems with it, I'll deal with them anyway. So they're already sort of picking through and having a bit of a mooch. But we'll let them settle in. I might turn the lights off just to sort of get them settled, but there's plenty of biofilm in that tank for them to pick through anyway, so I expect them to be quite active. And I've lowered the TDS from around 140 to 120, so my tanks will try and keep between 120 and 140. This was actually at 120, so I've dripped these very slowly over a few hours, just to sort of get the water that they came in gradually accustomed to the water that they're going into. And obviously we've netted those out, so hope you found that useful. And it's another type of shrimp in the shrimp room, albeit temporarily. I might do another tank with these actually and breed these, but the intention for these is for them to go into a scape that I've been videoing. And I mentioned earlier that at the moment they can't go in there because there is stuff in there that would probably eat them, so and that needs to go. So unfortunately that's it for this week, and that's the end of our video. As with always, if you've enjoyed any of our videos, please consider hitting the like, sharing the videos so we get a better audience, and consider subscribing if you're not already a subscriber. Until next time, thanks for watching.